Hello students, good morning to all of you. I welcome you in this lecture of Electrical Machine 1 and the code is EE205 as per our curriculum and unit which we are running basically we are going through that is unit number 5 and the topic which we are going to cover today that is transformers, voltage regulation, efficiency and subness back to back. So previously before this topic basically I want to tell you something that if I am talking about the machine. The electrical machine consists two types of machine. One is rotating, another one is non-rotating. If I'm talking about the rotating means motor and generator. So motor works on the principle of electromagnetic induction and generator works on the principle of Faraday law of an electromagnetic induction. So if I'm talking about the motor basically do what? Motor is a device we can say is an instrument which is used to convert electrical power into the magnetic power. It means we are giving input as a electrical. Electrical means what? Electrical means voltage, power, current, energy. We are giving in the input form, and if we are talking about the output, so we'll take output in the form of torque, rotation, revolution, speed means mechanical output we are getting. And if I am talking about the generator, so generator is basically is a device or element or instrument which is used to convert mechanical power into the electrical power. Means mechanical input means torque, power, speed, rotation converted into the electrical. That is, we can say power, voltage, current, and energy. Okay, so if I want to convert electrical to mechanical, though I need motor, and if I'm talking about motor to basically mechanical to electrical, though I need generator. But my dear student, in this machine one basically we deals with the DC generator, but nowadays we are basically dealing with the AC because AC having a upper hand and having the more advantages compared to the DC, because we cannot very easily DC, but we can vary AC. And AC having the positive negative cycle both means the variable nature, but DC doesn't have any variable nature. So if we want 12 volt DC, so instead of using DC generator, purchase DC generator, you can easily purchase a small battery which gives you the DC output. And if you don't want to purchase the battery, if you want to invest the money in battery, you can directly make a rectifier which convert 12 volt AC into 12 volt DC directly with the help of filter. So nowadays, the use of generator become obsolete, but motor we are using right now. Motor we are using for constant torque, for high starting torque. On all these, we use series and shunt and compound motors in hoist crane, mills. We can say lifts and all these we are using in a dryer, in a razor. We can say the electric shaver and toys. In any we can say we are having this type of motors, but generator we are not using. So generator become obsolete, but motor we are using nowadays. So the motor and generator basically comes in the category of rotating electrical machine. But if I'm talking about the non-rotating electrical machine, that is your transformer. But transformer does not work on AC. Does not work on DC. Sorry, it always works on AC because if I'm talking about the Faraday law of an electromagnetic induction, though Faraday states that whenever there is a change in flux linkage, or we can say when we cut the flux, then there will be an induced EMF, known as induced EMF, and circuit is closed and known as induced current. But my dear student, Faraday told you that we can vary the flux, so we can introduce a EMF in that circuit. But how can we vary flux or cut the flux? So there are two ways, either rotating coil or either alternating nature. So rotating coil we having in motor, that is it was known as dynamic EMF. Either uh, flux is of alternating nature, that is transformer, that is known as static EMF. So dynamic EMF and static EMF. So if I am talking about the transformer, though in transformer we basically generate static EMF. But if I am talking about the motor and the generator, we generate basically dynamic EMF. So there is a difference between dynamic and static because dynamic deals with the rotating part, but the static, we can say the static does not having the rotating part, stationary part as well. So this is all about the motors. Then as per our curriculum or the syllabus, we having the unit number one. We having the unit number one is totally deals with the magnetic circuit. Because if I want to convert from one form to another or from another form to one, basically electrical to mechanical and mechanical to electrical, So we having the electromagnetic field, that is magnetic circuit. And magnetic circuit we can introduce by the two ways. If we having a magnetic permanent magnet available in the market, you can just purchase it, and always having always persist a magnetic field whenever you want. Means always if you are applying a permanent magnet, you always having a magnetic field. But you can't vary, you can't change it. But the second option is the electromagnet, that is comes in the category of tampering magnet. We can make with the help of winding and a core. And core is made up of ferromagnetic material, as I earlier told you. So that basically based on the Biot-Savart law. When we give current to the coil, we always found a magnetic field surround that coil. So we having the electromagnetic field. So by two ways we can create, generate, or make or produce the magnetic field is are basically we having permanent magnet. Another one is the electromagnet. So permanent magnet or already we have available, and we also want to make the ferromagnetic material as a permanent magnet or a electromagnet. Ferromagnetic materials are basically are we can say iron, steel sheets, nickel, cobalt, and their alloys. So these are basically the ferromagnetic material. So we can easily convert that ferromagnetic material into the permanent magnet, and we can also convert that ferromagnetic material into the electromagnet. So if I'm talking about the ferromagnet materials, so they can easily convert into permanent magnet. How can we convert it? Just put into the magnetic field. Means with the in the interaction with the permanent magnet for some time, now it behave like a magnet. And another procedure is wound a coil on that iron piece, or we can say as a ferromagnetic material, and produce a current to it, then it again behaves like a magnetic field or magnet flux is there. And whenever we want, we have a magnetic field. That is the advantage of electromagnetic or electromagnets. But in a permanent magnet, we always persist a magnet, we always find a magnetic field. So that is the we can say advantage over the electromagnet. But in electromagnet we can vary the magnetic field by producing the current, because in that case the flux is proportional to the I. So how much the current I am inducing, that comparison to that we are getting the flux. So we having so analogy between the magnetic field and electric field, current, voltage, resistance. Similar to that, we having flux, EMF, magnetomotive force, and reluctance. We having the conductivity, we having the permeability, means electrical magnetic field. So basically, we have B density, H intensity, phi flux. We having the reluctance S. We having the permeability mu. So we having the BH curve. It basically shows the relation between density and intensity. So we have already studied all these things in the unit number 1. And we already studied about four laws: Biot-Savart law, Faraday law of an electromagnetic induction, Force law, and Ampere law. Then in unit number 2, it tells you whenever there is a current carrying conductor placed in a magnetic field, it experiences a force. That is basically suggested by the force law, that is the Lorentz force, BIL. It's take place when we having a charges moving through a particle or a, we can say, system, or we having the particle or material there. So in that material, if the current is flowing, the velocity of that current will be the charge will be b, and we can say the magnetic field is b, and the current is I. So if they are perpendicular to each other, then we can find the force is applied. Whenever there is a current carrying conductor placed in a magnetic field, whenever there is a current carrying conductor placed in a magnetic field, it experiences a force. It experiences a force. So that force is converted into the torque, because torque is equals to F cross D, and then it will start rotate. So that take place means force and torque is basically the part of second unit. And in this we understood about how the force and torque take place. Okay, and basically we also understood about the electromagnetic interaction, or we can say the electromechanical conversion, means electrical energy converted into mechanical energy, and mechanical energy converted into the electrical energy, means vice versa. So we can easily convert electrical into mechanical, mechanical into electrical. So the medium, or the we can say the intermediate part of these between these two stages or these two conversion of energy is magnetic field. So magnetic circuit we have, and we have two types of magnetic circuit. One is linear, one is series, another one is parallel. So if I am talking about the series magnetic circuit, though in series we always having the same flux. But if I'm talking about the parallel magnetic field or magnetic circuit, though in parallel magnetic circuit, you always found what? You always found a different value of flux. Means it's not same value of flux, different value of flux. So that is the parallel. And if I'm talking about the series, so in series you're always having the same value of flux. So similar to that, your what we can say, similar to that, your basically electrical series circuit and electrical parallel circuit. So I hope you understand. Okay, so that is in the unit number 2, and we have understood about the examples. One is the relay, then we having the voltmeter, ammeter, galvanometer, then we having the motor as a closed loop. So many examples you have understand, and in unit number we can say the 3. The unit number 3 is basically totally deals with the DC machines, as earlier told you, motor and generator, their construction. Basic principles are, if I'm talking about the motor, the basic principle is electromagnetic induction. And if I'm talking about the generator, so generator basic principle is the Faraday law of an electromagnetic induction. So we can say if we having the motor, we can convert into generator. If we having generator, we can convert into motor by changing its input, because in motor, in generator we are applying Fleming right hand rule. So if we are applying this thing, we rotate in this direction, means rotate in this direction clockwise. If I'm talking about the motor, so we rotate in the anti-clockwise, so clockwise, anti-clockwise. So two direction we have, and these two direction is basically on the basis of the Fleming right hand rule, Fleming hands rule. That is why we apply Fleming right hand rule in the generator and Fleming left hand rule in the motor. And we having the similar construction, having the similar types. In similar construction, we having static part and the dynamic part. Static part is stationary and does not rotate, and rotating part is basically rotating, a dynamic part. So if I am talking about the stationary, it is known as field, and rotating part is known as armature. So we having the stationary part is known as field here, and armature is the rotating part. In field, basically why I am calling, and why the inventor, basically the who did the invention and who make this motor and generator, tells why it is field, because we want to generate magnetic field. We want to create or generate magnetic field. So if I want to create or generate magnetic field, though two processes are available, permanent and electromagnet. So we are making electromagnets. They are basically we can say they are cheaper and highly efficient, because if you want to vary it, though we can vary it with the help of electromagnets. So in electromagnet we need a coil. You and I need a coil. That coil will be wounded on a core. That coil will be wounded on a core. So a coil and a core we have. So core is made up of ferromagnetic material and coil is made up of copper and aluminum. If we wound coil on a core, so we need pole winding, that is known as field winding, is a former wound winding. Then we need a core, it is made up of ferromagnetic material and having the laminations to reduce eddy current loss. Okay, and we having the pole shoe on which we can support the core like pole like this. So the dia of we can say the pole shoe is also known as pole face, having more dia, having the more area. By it's having the more area, because more area means low reluctance. Low reluctance means maximum, we can say the maximum generation of the flux. We'll getting the maximum flux in it. Okay, so if I'm talking about the maximum flux, so maximum flux is basically flux is inversely proportional to the reluctance. So reluctance is the property of magnetic metal which opposes the creation of flux. So if reluctance is more, then area is less and flux is less. If reluctance is less, then area is high, more large, and the flux is having the higher and we can say larger value we have. So these all about the field. Then we having the armature. So in armature we having the armature core. It is of cylindrical structure, and we having it is made up of ferromagnetic material, means core is there, and on that core we having the slots. In that slot we place conductors, means winding, which carries the current when it cut the flux of field. So the conductors, basically the armature winding, we want to say that it is armature winding. So armature winding is are of two types, lap and wave. There are of two types. Basically, they are lap and wave. So lap and wave are the type of connections you can make it. So lap and wave. Then waving the commutator, it is an important part. Convert bidirectional current into unidirectional, and we can transfer that current with the help of brushes. So So brushes are made up of carbon because we want to increase the commutation. And commutation is the process of reversal of current. Commutation is the process of reversal of current, means we are converting bidirectional current to unidirection. So we are basically reversing. We are changing the direction of current. Okay, so we can do with the help of commutator. Then we having the brush arrangement, then we having the bearings, then we having the yoke, the whole part similar to that in the generator or motor. Then we having the types. We If we talk about the types, though, we having separate and self. In self we having shunt, series and compound. Okay, then we having the basically losses. The types of losses are there. Then we having the armature reaction. We can improve by the help of computation and capacitive winding. Now in unit number 4, it is similar to that unit number 3, but unit number 3 is the basic part of DC machine, and unit number 4 is the basically extended part. Why I'm using the word extended here? Because in unit number 4, we study about the specified motor and the specified generator. But in DC machine, basically the unit number 3, we studied about the combined manner. Combined manner means motor and generator both DC machine. This basically we have studied about the DC machine. But if I'm talking about the unit number 4, we studied about the specification, or we can say the working of generator and motor. So we having different characteristic in generator, different characteristic in motor. We have studied all these. Then we having the speed control method in the motor, because if I am talking about the generator, though EMF, that is known as generating EMF we have, and if I am talking about the motor, then there will be a torque. So we calculate torque in the motor and we calculate EMF in the generator. So that value will be the 5 P by 68. Where if I am talking about the motor having the same EMF value, but it is known as back EMF because direction is opposite. So if I am talking about the generating EMF, that is 5 P by 68. Similar to that, we having the back EMF, that is again 5 P by 60. So I hope you understand about the back EMF. Then we having the torque. The torque is always proportional to the EB into IA. EB is the back EMF and IA is the armature current. So EB into IA we have. We have EB into IA. I hope you understand. So that we have understood in the unit number 4. Then we having the speed control methods. Basically for the motor speed control, though we having flux. Flux means field control, armature control, and voltage control, and Ward-Leron method and Ward-Leron Ignore method. Then we having the testing. So much testing we have, direct and indirect. Okay, and we having the testing, for example, Swinburne, Hopkinson, these all are, and brake test we have. So these are the tests we have understood in the unit number 4. And again losses, because losses are very important, because if I am doing a test on a motor, though why I am doing a test, I am doing a test to identify the efficiency. If I want to identify the efficiency, so I need a losses. I want a losses, so I want to identify the losses there. Why, that is why I am applying test on the DC machine, that is DC motor. So I hope you understand. Okay. Now, the unit number 5, known as transformer. So in this unit number 5, we are going to study about the single phase and three phase transformer. So previously we have studied about the transformer. Now transformer is an electromagnetic static device which is used to transform power or energy from one circuit to another without changing its frequency. So the basic consideration in this, we are not changing any frequency, but we are changing the voltage level from up and down. We are changing the current level corresponding to that up and down. So step up and step down the voltage level. And if I'm talking about the types, so on the basis of supply we having single phase and three phase. On the basis of construction, core and shell. In core, basically we can say what winding surrounded the core. And if I'm talking about the shell, so in shell, core surrounded the winding. So shell used for the low power applications, means for domestic appliances uses. And if I'm talking about the uh, core type transformer, they use for the high power applications. They use for the what? High power applications. So this is about the transformer. Then we have understood about the phasor diagram, and today we are going to study about the voltage regulation, efficiency and sumness back to back test. Now moving forward, these are the objectives, because I am starting a lecture. So if I am starting a lecture, my dear student, though if I am starting a lecture, so lecture I am starting means I have having a some motto in my mind which I want to achieve. which I want to cover it. So the objectives and the motto are basically help the students to understand about the basic of phasor diagrams. Again, I am repeating the phasor diagram because if I know the phasor diagram, so can I calculate easily the voltage regulation. So help the student to understand about the basic of phasor diagrams of transformer. Secondly, they make students familiar with the voltage regulation. That what is voltage regulation? What is efficiency? How can we calculate efficiency? And subness back-to-back test of transformers. So we are going to cover these three topics today. This voltage regulation and voltage regulation without phasor diagram we can't able to uh, basically identify the voltage regulation without any without the we can say the phasor diagram. So these are the objectives which we are going to accomplish today now in this lecture. Now transfer on load. Now one thing I want to tell you, my dear student, I am repeating again. Now if I am talking about the transformer, this is the ideal transformer on load. But if I am talking about the transformer or practical transformer on load, so what happens? We having two types of winding. One is primary, another one is the secondary. So if we give supply to the primary, so that supply basically is the EMF source. Voltage also known as EMF source. That EMF source having the electromotive force. That force basically make that force is due to the potential difference and applied basically having the difference which forces or push the charges which moves from one place to another, means ions from one place to another. These ions is basically known as the electrons. So the rate of flow of charges is known as current. So we having the current in it. That is the current. So that current is known as I1 from the primary side and I2 from the secondary side. So that current meets with the turn of the coil, that is N. So N meets with the I means Ni. So we having the ampere turn means flux, and that flux and the core which on which the winding is wounded. So the core always having the reluctance because it is a magnetic material. So flux basically how can we identify that, or how can we say that it is a flux? We can say that we are getting the flux by mmf by s. mmf is the ampere turn and s is the reluctance. So ampere turn per reluctance we will get the flux, and that flux is of alternating nature because we are giving alternating current. So that is why we are giving alternating current. Otherwise, if I am giving DC, no flux, flux will introduce, but it is not of alternating nature. So flux is moving from here, induce self EMF, even N1 is the turn of primary, then move to here and induce the EMF2 in the secondary side. But it is if it is a practical condition, if it is a practical condition, my dear student, then practical, if I am connecting a load, because we connect electrical load, so always we having the I2 current, and that I2 current also introduce a flux in the I2 side. That flux is basically opposite, equal and opposite to the flux of primary winding, that is phi 1. So phi 1 is equals to phi 2, they are cancel out each other and become zero value. That will not be happen, because if it happens, though we can't able to introduce EMF in it as per the Faraday law of an electromagnetic induction. So in primary side we having two components of the current. One component having the basically two components in it, the losses, that is known as copper loss, means I square R, and another one is the magnetizing component which introduce flux. So current divided into two parts, I naught and I2. I1 is dividing into two parts, I naught, no load current, plus I2 dash. So I naught having two components, I mu and IW. In somewhere you also find IW is equals to IC. Basically, I2, IW and IC are the loss component which produce the copper loss, and IM and I mu is basically the magnetizing component, which is here to create or to generate, to produce or to make the flux. That is fine. So we are having two components, I mu and IW and I naught, and another one is the I2 dash, because here if I am not generate, if no current will generate on the primary side, that is I2 dash, which counterbalance the I2, that the main flux phi 1 will take place. Otherwise, what will happen? The value will become zero. So we basically from the primary side we are getting two currents, I naught for the flux and for the flux generation and the loss component, and secondly is for to counterbalance the flux of secondary side, load side. Okay, so we having the leakage flux in the transformer. This is the leakage flux we can see. So this is the transformer working. Now phasor diagram of transformer with unity power factor. Now if I am talking about the unity power factor, my dear student, So in unity power factor, basically I am talking about the resistive load. I am talking about which type of load? Resistive load. And if I am talking about the resistive load in which voltage and current are in the same phase. So see here, I naught is the combination of I naught, we having the combination of I mu and IW, and I1 is the combination of I2 dash and I naught. So I2 dash we can find from the secondary side, that is V2 is equals to I2, because V2 and I2 are in the same phase. Why they are in the same phase, my dear student? Because they are resistive. So if I am identify the secondary side and primary side equation, so the secondary side equation will be V2 plus I2 Z2 is equals to E2. So if I am talking about the primary side equation, so they will be V1 is equals to minus E1, or we can say V1 plus I1 Z1 is equals to E1, we can say. So Z1 is what? Z1 is equals to R1 plus JX1, and Z2 is equals to R2 plus JX2. So we can make directly. Now see, here we having the I2. So I2, R2 are in the same phase because current is here. But X2 always perpendicular to the R2, because what we write? R2 plus JX2. So J representing the 90-degree shift. So J 90-degree shift here, X2, and we can add it and having the resultant, that is I2Z2. That is what? I2Z2. So impedance triangle is there. Similar to that, even I1, we can say the current is flowing here I1. So we can say I1 R1 in the same phase. Why I'm taking I1 like this? Because I1 we having this way, in this angle 45 degree, we can say. So we have to place I1 here, I1 R1 in the same phase, then I1 X1 perpendicular, then I1 Z1 and V1, adding like this equation. Okay, so similar to that, it is for unity power factor. Similar to that, we having the lagging power factor. Lagging power factor means current is lagging. Now current is lagging. See here, from the V2 current is lagging. So similar to that, I2 R2 we having I2 X2 and I2 Z2. Here I1 is there, so again we having the same. So see here and here. This is similar to that for the primary side, but we having the different from the secondary side, and different from the secondary side is due to the lagging, leading or unity. Lagging means we having the inductive load. So we can make a phasor like this. Similar to that, if I want to make a phasor for leading, so leading means capacitive. Leading means, my dear student, capacitive. Though if I am talking about the capacitive, when capacitive basically, in capacitive we having the current lead the voltage by the angle of theta, or we can say 90 degree if it is idle. And if I am talking about the practically, so it is phi, but current is lead by the voltage. But in lagging, the current is lagging with the angle of 90 or phi with respect to v. So similar here, we having the I2 which is leading. That I2 we having the I2 dash, the I1 is there. So similar for the primary, but difference from the secondary. See here, difference from the secondary, that is I2. So I2 R2, then I2 X2, then I2 Z2. This is the difference between lagging, leading, and unity. So unity means resistive load, voltage and current are in the same phase. Lagging means voltage and current are having the different phase, means current is lagged at the angle of 90 if it is practically ideal, and practical it is lagged by the angle of 5. And if I'm talking about the leading, so it is capacitive. Though in leading, basically if I'm talking about the leading, my dear student, though in leading, basically the current lead by the angle of 90 or 5 by the V. So capacitive is there. I hope you understand. Then the transformer phasor diagram. So to determine the voltage regulation of a transformer, it is necessary to understand the voltage drop within. Voltage drop within. Now see here. This is the primary side, and we actually having the equivalent circuit which basically combine to each other. If I'm combining with the primary, so we have to divide with the transformation ratio, that is key. So here we are having Vp by K, and we are having the current KIP, and the RC, that is the resistance upon K square, and JXM upon K square on alpha square, and R equivalent X equivalent, and that is your S secondary current. So we can identify the R equivalent will be Rp by K square plus Rs. These all are, and if I'm talking the X equivalent, that is Xp by K square plus XS. We can say this one and this one, we can say. So we can understand that these are the uh, basically through phasor we can understand that how voltage drop we are finding it. We find in it the voltage drop, how we are finding it. So these are the voltage drop. Now I hope you understand. And now ignoring the excitation of the branch, since the current flow through the branch is considered to be small. Ignoring the excitation, if I am ignoring the excitation, I am ignoring the excitation of the branch, since the current flow through the branch is considered to be small. I am considering basically what? The current flow through the branch is considered to be small, very small. So more consideration is given to the series impedance, that is R equivalent plus J equivalent. Okay, so voltage regulation depends on magnitude of the series impedance. If I want to know the voltage regulation, so voltage regulation depends on the magnitude of the series impedance and the phase angle of the current flowing through the transformer. The phase angle of the current flowing through the transformer. So basically, voltage regulation is the change of secondary side or the load side in the voltage from no load to from full load to no load. We can identify by this way. So phasor diagram will determine the effects of these factors on voltage regulation. A phasor diagram consists of current and voltage vector. So based upon the equivalent circuit, apply Kirchhoff voltage law. If we having the equivalent circuit, previously I told you we have equivalent circuit. So if in that equivalent circuit, if we apply Kirchhoff voltage law, basically the Kirchhoff voltage law, then we can say assume the reference phasor is secondary voltage. Assume the reference phasor is secondary voltage, that is Vs. Therefore, the reference phasor will have 0 degree in terms of angle. So we can write Vp upon Ks is equals to Vs plus R equivalent Is plus Jx equivalent Is. Okay, by transforming it. Now, for lagging load, Vp upon A is greater than Vs. So the voltage regulation with lagging load is greater than 0. See here, we having this. Looking here is 0, is greater than 0 and is not 0 basically. So when the power factor is unity, Vs is lower than Vp. When the power factor is unity, though secondary voltage is always lower than the primary voltage. So Vr is greater than 0. We have like this. Regulation means voltage regulation is greater and with lagging load is again greater than 0. We can identify this. I hope you understand now. Moving forward, transformer phasor diagram with a leading power factor, Vs is higher than the referred Vp. In unity is same, then lagging, then leading. So Vr is less than 0. Means in the lagging and unity we are having greater than 0. But if I am talking about the leading, so in leading power factor the voltage regulation is less than 0. Means we are having always in our points and some other value, but it is we can say the value is less than the 0 we have. So to show you, it's showing here the Is secondary current. We having the Vp by K, J equivalent Is, R equivalent Is, and Vs means secondary voltage. So I hope you understand. Now moving forward, transformer phasor diagrams. So for lagging load, the vertical components of R equivalent and X equivalent will partially cancel each other due to the angle of Vp by A will be very small. Hence, we can assume that Vp by K is horizontal. Vp by K is basically the horizontal, is like this. Therefore, the approximation will be as follows. In this, we having value that is R equivalent Is cos phi, X equivalent Ix sin phi. Active and reactive part, R equivalent Is and X equivalent Is. So we can write Vp by K Vs plus R equivalent Is cos theta plus X equivalent Is sin theta. So here I am placing the value similar to that. What the value we having like this. Now see, this is the value we are getting. But in this, basically what I am placing here, that is the cos form of the R and the sine form of the X. Why we are getting this, my dear student? Because if I am applying the complex numbers, so in complex, or we can see the triangular and the sinusoidal on the polar form, so we can convert easily. A plus Gp is equals to R cos theta plus G sine. So through this we are getting now formula. If anyone asks you what is the voltage regulation formula, so we having for secondary values we having 0 Vt, V2 minus V2 upon 0 V2 means no load minus full load upon no load. So we can say I2 R not R2 cos phi 2 plus minus X2 X02 sin phi 2 upon 0 V2 for where positive for lagging and negative for leading. Positive for the lagging, if I am with the lagging we can use positive sign, and if we having the leading then we use minus sign. So in terms of primary values we have percentage regulation, the V1 minus V2 dash upon V1 I1 R not 1 cos phi 1 plus minus I1 x naught 1 sin phi 2 for primary. Previous one is the for the secondary, and the second one is for the primary value. So whereas where positive sign for the lagging and negative sign for the leading, similar to that the previous. So we having no load minus full load upon no load, that is the voltage regulation. This is the equation. Now transformer efficiency. So if I am talking about the efficiency, my dear student, though my dear student, efficiency always denoted by the output upon input. So transformer efficiency is defined as a applies to motor, generator, and transformer. Neta. Neta is basically the efficient constant, efficiency constant, that is the, we can say, efficiency representative. If I want to express the efficiency, though I have to make neta. Neta is basically giving you what? It's telling you that it is the expression for efficiency. So what from where we are getting the efficiency? Output upon input. So P out upon P input into 100%, that is your efficiency. And we can also write like this: P out upon P output plus losses, because we are always having the losses into 100%. So if I want to know the efficiency, do I want to know the losses also? So types of losses incurred in a transformer, they are copper loss, that is I square R loss. We can also say winding loss, because in a winding we having a resistance, and due to that resistance we having the loss. Having what? We having the loss. So these are the losses. We have copper loss, I square R loss, and we having the hysteresis loss, that is magnetic loss due to the magnetic reversal, and eddy current loss due to the basically the current conduct into their body, means leakage flux. So we can write what? The output is VSIS cos theta, that is secondary, PCU, that is copper loss, P core, that is core losses, magnetic losses, and we having the VSIS cos theta into 100%, into 100. That is the we can say the formula for efficiency in a transformer. Though if I want to know the formula, though I want to identify the losses. So there are two types of losses, copper loss and core loss. So we already studied the two types of method previously test, the open circuit and the short circuit. In open circuit, we basically identify the core, magnetic and iron losses, means eddy current hysteresis, that is PCORE, P core. And if I'm talking about the open circuit test, so in open circuit test, basically we are going to measure the copper losses, current based losses. So PCU we can identify from the open circuit, P core we can identify for the open circuit basically, and that is the separation of losses. We can identify these are the losses, and we can easily separate by the help of open circuit and short circuit, and some another test that is we are going to study later on, that is some of the back to back test. So PCU plus P core plus VSIS sine cos theta. So I hope you understand about this thing. That is therefore for a transformer efficiency may be calculated using the following. Okay, now we can identify like this. Now Cu loss is always I1 square R naught 1 or I2 square R naught 2 for primary and secondary both. R losses are the combination of hysteresis loss plus eddy current losses. So WH, we can say the R loss is equals to the WH plus WE is always considered WI. Considering primary side, so primary input is equals to V1 I1 cos phi 1, and neta will be the V1 I1 cos phi 1 minus losses upon V1 I1 cos phi 1. So we can write V1 I1 cos phi 1 minus I1 square R naught 1 for primary side minus WI, two losses, and V1 I1 cos phi 1. We can also take common, that is V1 I1 cos phi 1. So 1 will become the common side, that is 1 minus I1 R naught 1 upon V1 cos phi 1 is always equal to the WI, is the loss, V1 I1 cos phi 1. Differentiating both sides with respect to I1, we get dn by d1 di1, and we are getting the one constant, that is 0. So r naught 1 upon v cos phi 1 plus wi upon v1 I1 square cos phi 1. So the maximum efficiency we can place neta by I1 respect to 0. So from 0 I am getting two things equal to 0, that is the copper loss is the R naught 1 component and the iron loss is the Wi component. So we can say the R naught component equal to Wi component, that is core loss will become R losses. Means core losses and R losses become equal. When it become equal, when we differentiate and equate to the 0, means we want to identify the maximum condition. So if I want to identify the maximum condition. So in maximum condition, the both losses become equal. Then we can say it is a maximum condition. And this is all about the derivation. Then the output current corresponding to maximum efficiency is I2 is equals to root Wi by RO2. Wi by RO2. The load at which two losses are equal, that is full load into under root iron losses upon full load copper losses. Okay, iron losses and full load copper losses we have. So iron losses will equal to the copper losses, the maximum efficiency condition in a transformer. I hope you understand. Now all day efficiency. So we can identify ordinary commercial efficiencies, output in watt, oblique input in watt. But if I am talking about the transformer commercial efficiency, the output in kilowatt hour means unit upon input into kilowatt hour for 24 hours. If I am talking about the all day efficiency, my dear student, the all day efficiency is basically depend on the day hour. So day hour is of 24 hour. So we can multiply the whole with the 24 hours. I hope you understand. Now, Sumner test of transformers. What is it? The introduction part is that the Sumner test back-to-back test is also known as is very practical, convenient, efficient, and minimum power consumption test. So in that test, the practically convenient, where efficiency is very high, and the power required consumption is very low, which is done without actual loading to find regulation and efficiency of large power transformer. Without actual loading, the disadvantage is that one, that we are not having the loading on it. Okay, now basically two basic tests we have. One is the open circuit, another one is the short circuit. So if I am talking about the open circuit test to determine the loss or core loss or magnetic loss. In this test, the secondary of transformer is kept open. In this test, the secondary winding is always kept open. But if I am talking about the short circuit, the test to determine, we are determining the test of current based losses, basically the copper losses. Test to determine the copper losses. In this test, the secondary of the transformer is kept short circuited. So primary open circuited, then secondary short circuited. In open circuited, we basically want to find the core iron or magnetic losses, means eddy current and hysteresis. If I'm talking about the short circuit test, though in short circuit, we are going to calculate, evaluate, and find out or want to measure the copper losses. Now, already two tests are there. Why do we need Sumner test to determine the same thing? Determine the same thing. Now, in open circuit test, there is no load on the transformer, while in short circuit test, only fractional load gets applied in all OC and SC. That is open circuit and short circuit. Test, the loading conditions are absent, hence the result are inaccurate. We can say we are doing individually and the loading is absent, so we are saying the results are inaccurate because loading is not there. Okay. In open and short circuit tests, iron losses and copper losses are determined separately, but in actual use, both losses occurs simultaneously. When copper loss is there, then we can say magnetic loss is there. But open circuit, we are separately we are finding the losses, but actually it is take place simultaneously. So the temperature rise in a transformer is due to total loss. Temperature rise in a transformer is due to total loss that occurs simultaneously during actual use. It can be determined by OC and AC test. So we can also determine by the OC and AC test. These are the losses, copper loss and core losses. Okay. I hope you understand. Now, Sumner test. It is an improved method of testing transformer efficiency and other parameters. This test gives the value of total loss accurately, as it occurs when it is in actual use. Sumner test or back-to-back test requires two transformers. Both transformers are connected to the supply in such a way that one transformer is loaded on another. See, we can say we are having the two identical transformers. So these are the secondary and these are the primary. So these are the primary connected in parallel, but the secondary are connected in anti-polarity, means connectivity like this. When we give supply, so then will become short circuit, and we can easily find the open circuit loss, that is core and magnetic losses, and short circuit test, that is copper losses, by the help of W1 and W2. So we are having two wattmeters, but we are having the two transformers in this connection, and we are using ammeter in the both side to identify the current value. Okay, and the supply is given by the EMF, so that may be the supply we can have. I hope you understand now. How it works, the operation. The primaries of two identical transformers are connected in parallel across the supplies. As I earlier showed you, V1 and secondaries are connected in series of position. The switch S2 is opened and the switch S1 is closed. Now the load current flows I0 flows in primary, and T2 is 0. Primary, we are flowing in primary, but I2 will become 0 because S2 is open. Then switch S2 is also closed. The voltage at the output of regulating transformer is varied until the full load current I2 flows in a second loop. So two switches are there, S1 and S2. See here, we having the S1 and S2. So S1 and S2 is open, S1 is closed. So no current is flowing in this first case, but current is flowing in this case. So we'll give you the core losses. But if we close it, though secondary current will also flow in it. So we have to identify this thing. Now this is W1 is responsible for core loss of both the transformers, and W2 is responsible for copper loss of both the transformers. What are the W1 and W2? W1 and W2 are the watt meters. So they are basically giving you the reading of power usage, power, uh, which how much amount of power you use. So they give you the power usage, basically power in this test, giving the losses. So open circuit is separately, short circuit is separately. We combine it and give a name, Sampner back-to-back test. In this, we are getting both tests simultaneously. Okay. Now advantages. The power required to carry out the test is very small. The transformer are tested at full load conditions. You can apply load on it. At the test, results give the full value of the core and copper losses occurring simultaneously. So heat run test can be conducted on two transformers. Heat run test means we can also identify the temperature of the transformer while it's working. The current, secondary current, that is I2, can be varied to any value using regulating transformer we have. Hence, we can determine the copper losses at full load condition or any load. But in open and short circuit, we can't do this because the absence of we can say the loads are absent there. The load is absent in these tests. So drawbacks of the test, only limitation is that two identical transformers are required. In practice, exact identical transformer cannot be obtained. As two transformers are required, the test is not economical. For example, I am using two transformers, so that the cost is very high. And if I want the identical transformer, so practically exact identical transfer cannot be obtained. Some changes will be there. So this is the drawback, but having the advantages more compared to the drawback. I hope you understand. Okay, so help you understand about Samna back-to-back test. Then we having the multiple choice question related to our topic. Which test is also called a back-to-back test? Obviously, Samna option B. While conducting the Samna test, the primaries of the two identical transformers are connected in parallel across the supply, and secondary are connected in parallel series opposition, both in series and parallel, not connected. So they are in the series opposition because the current value will be 0. In subnet test, the net voltage in the local circuit of the secondary is equal to 0, twice of the induced EMF in each secondary, equal to induced EMF in each secondary, square of the induced EMF in each secondary, so option is E, equal to 0. While conducting short circuit test on a transformer, which side is short circuit? Obviously, low voltage side we have to short circuit. Otherwise, if high voltage side will be short circuited, though maximum current will flow. So short circuit test on a transformer is conducted to determine, as I earlier told you, which loss? Copper loss, current loss. We only get copper losses from the short circuit test. True. We only get iron losses from the open circuit test. It is again true. Our iron, we can say magnetic and core losses we can identify with the help of open circuit. Now next we having the voltage regulation for a transformer is given by E2 minus V2 by E2, E2 minus V2 by V2, V2 minus E2 by E2, V2 minus E2 by V2. So E2 minus V2 by E2 is your actual voltage regulation equation. While performing some kind of test on transformer, if the secondary are not in series opposition, then meter will read equal to 0. Twice of the induced EMF each secondary equal to the induced EMF each secondary, keep fluctuating. So if I have no series opposition means adding, so twice of induced EMF. If W1 is the input power measured by wattmeter connected across the primaries, and W2 is the measurement of wattmeter connected in secondaries, while performing sumnet test, then iron loss and copper loss is equal to what? W1 in comma W2, W1 by 2 into 2 into W2, 2 into W1 comma W2 by 2. So W1 by 2, W2 by 2. Obviously, D option. Half of copper loss and half of iron loss. So iron loss is given by the W1 and copper loss is given by the W2. So I hope you understand. Now these are the reference books which through which I basically took some content to deliver this lecture. So E. Filgard is a very good book. It is of international author. You can refer it. Very good book is there. R.K. Srivastava is also very good book. Stephen J. Chapman is again international author. Very good book. Electric machinery fundamentals. So I hope you Just go through it. These books having the good content for understanding. Okay, so I hope you understand about this lecture. So thank you from my side for understanding this lecture or listening this lecture. I hope you understand about the voltage regulation, efficiency, and Subner back-to-back test. So I hope you better understand about this thing. So thank you from my side. Thank you for listening, my dear students. Thank you for patience.